Hi, I'm starting this video out differently than I have the other two that were similar to this video. I've only done this a couple of other times, I've done it a few other times with a couple of other people. It was Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. This tarot card reading is not a traditional tarot card reading. I'm not using the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the tarot. I'm using Carl Jung's version of the tarot. Carl Jung was a psychologist. So basically, I'm using tarot cards to analyze certain people. This video is going to be about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Um, she's a very polarizing topic. Everybody seems to have a big opinion on her. So before I start this reading, full disclosure, these cards are pre-shuffled. I don't normally pre-shuffle my cards. I just did not plan on doing I didn't plan on taping this. The other two people that I did this type of reading for, it was Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. So if you know who they are, feel free to go and look at those if you are interested. If not, basically, I was not planning on recording anything tonight. I wasn't sure how I was going to go about this type of reading for Gypsy Rose Blanchard because, unlike the other two people that I did this reading for, she didn't receive a life sentence or a death sentence. The two people that I did this previously on were sentenced to life and death, one of each. So I really wasn't sure how many cards to pull, what format I wanted to do, what kind of spread I wanted to do, basically. And I was just I decided on 8 cards. If you hear a paper, it's just my notes going over what each card is basically answering. So each card is a different stage of life. So the first card that I pulled was for her early childhood. The second card was for her adolescence. The third card was early adulthood. The fourth tarot card, and this is where it starts to differ from the last two readings I did. The fourth card represents her first 5 years in prison. The fifth card represents her last 5 years in prison. Sorry, excuse me. I am getting over some allergies, so I apologize. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm a few years younger than Gypsy Rose Blanchard, right? So I'm not 30. She's 33. I'm almost 30. I just find the human brain to be very interesting during the first 5 years of your 20s versus the last 5 years of your 20s. I know that that's not exactly how that lines up with her, but I am curious to see if there was any evolution as far as her mentality while she was in prison, based off of obviously her becoming more of an adult. I didn't even sorry. Let me finish this and then I'll go back to my opinion so you all know where I stand. Okay, so the sixth card is the first few months out of prison. The seventh card is going to be her mindset since her pregnancy. And I have not done any type of predictions in these videos, and I don't plan to. I am not asking any questions about the details of the crime or anything like that. This is solely to look at Gypsy Rose Blanchard's brain. It is not looking at the crimes. So this eighth card is basically supposed to represent how she will change after her pregnancy and after the birth. Maybe I'll pull a ninth card that more clarifies after birth later. But for the most part, I am just winging this. The reason why I decided to record when originally I hadn't is because I flipped over these two cards, and after pulling the second card, I felt like maybe I should record this because I don't know. I don't know why I didn't start recording it from the beginning. So anyway, with that being said, let me just give you a overview of my opinion on Gypsy Rose Blanchard because everyone seems to have an opinion. And mine is very much, I don't really care. I really don't. Here's the thing. She is a grown woman that made a choice to commit a brutal crime. A brutal crime, whether or not she stabbed, didn't stab, she planned it, she made sure that the plan was carried out. She did something horrific, and nothing takes away from what she did, right? Just like nothing takes away from what Dee Dee Blanchard did. 2 people did horrific things. 3 people did horrific things. All 3 of these people. As a society, I feel we should have evolved enough to understand that multiple things can be true at once. Dee Dee Blanchard could not be a good person, and Gypsy Rose Blanchard could not be a good person, and Nick Godejohn could also not be a good person. Or they could all be good people that did terrible things. I don't really know, and honestly, I don't really care. As far as I'm concerned, she served her time. That's all I can ask. That's literally all anyone can ask, and I understand that people are upset that she only got 10 years in prison. That's not her fault. I don't know who needs to hear this, but she had nothing to do with how much she was sentenced, like how long her sentence was. A criminal defendant doesn't get to choose. The most a criminal defendant can choose is to take a plea deal or go to trial. So yeah, I think it's fair that he got life in prison and she didn't. I honestly don't know the details enough to know one way or the other. All I know is that they seem to be all people that did horrible things, all of them, all 3 of them. So at the end of the day, I'm sure I'm going to upset some people. I'm not really upset about any of it. Like, I'm not sad that a woman that abused her child forever is dead. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not sad that she was sentenced to prison. I do think it's odd that there's such a massive difference in her sentence versus his sentence. But again, she doesn't choose that. That was the law enforcement. That was the DA's office. That was whoever was in charge of her sentence, the judge, whoever. That it has nothing to do with her in the sense of she could not choose how much time she did or didn't get. So those types of issues aren't necessarily issues I think anybody should be taking up with her. I think if you live in that state, maybe there's something you can do to change the justice system. I don't know, but I see that being thrown around a lot, that she should have gotten more time. I don't know. I really don't. I don't pretend to know anything. And, I'm just a tarot card reader, so I'm just here to read the cards. But the second card specifically is what made me want to start recording. I didn't look at any of the other cards, and I don't know if I will pull more or if I will not pull more. It's debatable. I might pull one for an afterbirth card, but anyway, we'll just see where it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the reading and start flipping over these cards. So the first card is going to represent her early childhood, and it is represented by the Fool, which is pretty standard. The Fool is a card that represents youth in this deck and in the original deck. It represents more in this. So every single card in the tarot is represented by this card. So the Fool is in every single card in the tarot. This is the very beginning, and that is fitting for the early childhood. And I'm going to be completely honest. As I film this, I watched the act once when it came out and never saw it again. I haven't watched a bunch of documentaries. I did watch that show that was on Lifetime just because I was curious. It's the card that made me want to start filming. The moon represents adolescence, and this is why I wanted to, because as I explained, I fully believe 3 out of 3 people in this scenario did horrific things, and that includes the victim. You can be a victim and a perpetrator. Gypsy is a victim and a perpetrator. Her being a victim doesn't take away from the fact that she's a perpetrator. Just like Dee Dee being a victim of murder doesn't change the fact that she is obviously somebody that harmed her child for a very long time. Okay, so this card, the moon, it represents the grandmother or the deadly mother. And see, this is why I wanted to bring it up. The deadly mother. The moon is all phases of a woman at once. Deep-rooted fear, deception, clouded truth. It is similar to death in some ways. It is more of like a returning to the womb in this tarot deck. So this being her adolescence, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of this started in her early childhood as far as her mom and doing all of the medical things that she did, but I feel like in adolescence is when Dee Dee's Munchausen by proxy, or I think it's now called fictitious disorder imposed upon another. I think that's a mouthful. I'll call it Munchausen's for the rest of this video. But I think that it started to become in full bloom in Gypsy Rose's adolescence, and I feel like that played a big role in her mental development in her adolescence. Again, that doesn't mean that she could have made a better decision, or that couldn't have made a better decision. I'm sure she could have. There were probably a lot of other things she could have done that didn't involve killing her mother. So, that being said, this time in her life doesn't excuse the bad things that she did. So please don't think that I'm trying to justify anything. I'm absolutely not. I'm not trying to justify any of these three people here. And I'm also not trying to protect any of these three people. It's three adults battled it out and it did not end well. Death. Okay, this is okay. So this is her early adulthood. So the death card in this deck is slightly different than the regular version. It is the return of the son to the mother, and it may be unexpected. I think it was unexpected. Obviously, Dee Dee's death was unexpected for her. I don't... Basically, the way I'm interpreting this this card, so this is actually death. I think it's death in reverse. So the deck I'm using doesn't have the minor arcana in it. It just has the court cards and the major arcana, and each one of them is twice. One has the positive and one has the negative. So I'm pretty sure this is the negative of death. Death has dropped everything. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, again, murder was not the answer. Murder was not the right answer, but there is part of me that does believe that if one of them was gonna die, Gypsy or Dee Dee, in my opinion, was probably gonna die from this, right? And see, this is why I don't have extreme opinions one way or the other as far as Gypsy Rose Blanchard goes, because I feel like if it were her dad that had done this, people probably wouldn't be so angry with her. Unfortunately, I do think that is the case. I think there is a percentage of people where if her father had done the things that her mother had done to her, everyone would be like, oh yeah, good for you. Not because that would be right, but because I feel like there is a percentage of people in the world that really like to right the wrongs of the past by overcompensating in current day. Meaning, obviously, there was a large period of time where men were dominant over women in society. And so there are a lot of women these days that want to overcompensate for that in current days by being harder on men or trying to take away opportunities from men or anything like that, because back then it was the opposite. I do feel like there is some of that here, but I do think that the abuse, obviously, that Gypsy endured did heavily contribute to her, obviously, committing the crime that she committed. So this fourth card, there is her first 5 years in prison. And it is clarified by the Emperor. The Emperor in this deck is less significant than the Mother. It is the Father card. It is pure male. So the father in this situation stands guard normally over the mother while the mother nurtures the child. It's odd that this is coming up now, or not now, but in her first 5 years in prison. I feel like in this first 5 years in prison, I don't know all of the online rumors about Gypsy Rose, so I think that in her mind, I think maybe she felt like in her first 5 years, she may have been a bigger deal than she was. And I feel like she obviously spent the first 5 years, and I feel like this is obvious, reconnecting with her father. I think that that's pretty much all what the father entails. I think she's looking for the protective side of her father, her first 5 years in prison and her first 5 years away from her mother. I think obviously, again, she's turned to her father, but I feel like in her head she thinks she's a bigger deal. I don't want to say there might have been a sense of pride, but it is possible that for the first 5 years in prison there was a sense of pride about maybe not what she had done, but the fact that she had ended what had been happening to her for so long. And again, I'm not saying that that's true. This is just my tarot card reading and what I'm getting from the cards. So this is the fifth card. The fifth card is meant to represent her last 5 years in prison. I know that she only spent 8 years in prison, so I'm going to actually take this as the last 5 years, just the last 5 years in general. Sorry, I didn't think about that earlier. And the Tower. It's the Tower in reverse. So the funny thing about the Tower here in reverse in this deck is you can either be the antagonist or the hero, right? And it's super odd that this is the card that came up. So in this card, so you can see it better, is he tearing down the tower or is he pushing the tower back up, right? So you are either the instigator or the hero, the antagonist or the hero, and I think that in the last 5 years, I think and hope that she is starting to see herself as less of a hero and more of a villain in my mind, just based off of what I was getting from this card and what I'm getting from this card. And look, I am hopeful that maybe she'll live a normal life, right? Especially since she is pregnant now. I hope for the best. I don't wish ill will on anyone because I feel like that would probably bring some ill will back to me. I might be wishful thinking here, but this is what this card makes me think of solely based off of what I was getting from this card, which is where she was feeling like a sense of pride in some ways. I feel like the sense of pride left in her late 20s is when she started to lose some of the pride that she had gained from basically freeing herself, which she did, but she obviously also committed a horrific crime while doing that. And I know there are people that want to debate on whether or not Dee Dee was genuinely ill in that way, and I'm sorry, I disagree with anyone that says that she wasn't. I mean, her family has even come forward saying that they were pretty sure that she had been poisoning people before this, so I respectfully disagree. I do believe that Gypsy Rose did endure quite a bit of abuse as a child, and honestly, nothing's gonna change my mind about that. That is the one thing that I stand firm on, is that Dee Dee wasn't a good person. She didn't deserve to die like that, but she wasn't a good person. And the reality of the situation is sometimes victims aren't good people. I understand that there are many, many victims that are wonderful and amazing people, but not every single victim is. And that's just the reality of the situation, and I feel like that's why it's so polarizing. Obviously, we want to defend someone who has been brutally murdered that way. Like, who wouldn't want to? But that still doesn't change what Dee Dee did in her life. So I'm thinking, because again, based off of the previous card, the Tower just mentions like is basically a representation of complete upheaval and disruption in your life or your mental state, and this whole thing is about her mental state. So for the Tower to be here, and for the Tower in this deck specifically to mean the hero or the antagonist, I think that in her last 5 years of prison, she didn't see herself as much of a victim anymore, but I definitely think that going into prison, she did. Okay, so the sixth card is going to represent her first few months out of prison. I'm pretty sure everybody's up to date, more up to date than I am. But for her first few months, she is still married, but she's currently going through a divorce. She was released to her husband, and she lived with her husband at the time, her still current husband. And this card is going to represent her mental state in those first few months. Oh, the Hanged Man. Okay. So this is actually the Hanged Man in reverse. This is the reversal for the Hanged Man. As you can obviously see, the man is no longer hanging. That means the fact that it is the Hanged Man in general makes me feel like when she got out of prison, she was undecisive about something. That would obviously lead me to think that she was undecisive about her marriage based off of this card and the fact that she's no longer with that husband. And I think in those first few months, as we saw on the TV show, she obviously made her decision. That does make me feel better about this. If you guys want me to do this reading again where I do shuffle on camera, I have no problem doing that. I won't get the same cards again, but I can't help but feel I'd probably get a similar message. So yeah, the Hanged Man, that is her making her decision on what she wants to do with her life, and she feels that she made the wrong one, obviously, since she's left that marriage and has started a new relationship and is starting a family with the person she's in a relationship with. And also, this reading is not about Ken, so I will not be predicting if he is, what his sexuality is. That's not my business. That's not anyone's business, really. So anyway, the seventh card is going to represent her mental state during pregnancy. And the Lovers. Okay. So the Lovers in this deck is, let me see. Sorry. So the Lovers in this deck is the Sun, or the Collector of Experiences, the original man. This is the Lovers card. Oh, great. Sorry, forgot about the nudity. Hold on, let me get some coins to cover those because I forgot that there's nudity in this deck. So sorry. Okay, there we go. So sorry. Forgot I'm online. This is only like my fourth video. So this is, it's not the most favorable card for this. Though, but she is pregnant, so I guess it does fit. The Lovers card, I think that she is focused on her relationship right now, unfortunately, which isn't a bad thing, I guess. When you're pregnant, you probably should make sure you have a stable relationship, so I shouldn't be too critical of this card. Yeah, I think that she's focused on her relationship with her new significant other. And this is the after pregnancy birth, the Hanged Man. That is not a good sign. Okay, well, this is her after pregnancy and birth, her not being able to decide again on what she would like to do with her life, I think. Well, that's an unfortunate ending. Okay, well, let me see what's going to come after this because I was trying to hold out hope here. So just let me shuffle again. And this seventh card, so this is going to be after pregnancy when she gives birth. And so I'm going to do a ninth card in hopes to redeem her in my tarot card reading. No offense. I mean, of all the videos that have been made about her, this is not the rudest one. So I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle again for a ninth card. This is going to be Gypsy Rose's mental state and her child's first 5 years. We'll go 5 years. Okay, the world in reverse. So I look, I'm not one to make predictions in these types of videos, but I've obviously gotten in over my head here. Again, just based off of this tarot card reading, I feel like in her child's first few years, she's probably going to change her lifestyle again in some way. I don't know what that means. Maybe that means giving up men completely and focusing on just being a single mom and a mom. I don't know what that means. She is alone. She is alone in this card, and she's walking away from something. I don't think, and the fact that it's a woman makes me think that she's not walking away from someone else. In fact, this card in this deck represents the daughter who conceals herself. So it is totally possible that in her child's first few years, she disappears from public eye, maybe, hopefully. But she's going to walk away from something in her life. The fact that it's a woman alone, and the reference in this deck is the daughter who conceals herself. I do think it's totally possible that she might just go completely offline at some point, which would be good. Maybe that is what the decision is about here. Maybe it's not about her life. I understand. I thought that, and it still could be with this Lover's card here. Maybe she will not stay in the relation that she's in. I don't know. But I do think that her life will change in hopefully a positive way. Again, this card, specifically this card, does make me think it would be in a positive way, and it will be out of the public eye. So that is my reading on Gypsy Rose. If you are interested in my other readings that are like this, they're all in a playlist. It's labeled Tarot Psychology. And again, I don't know if I said this in this video, but I've said it before. I'm not a psychologist. I am not trying to be a psychologist. I am not trying to take away from the psychology field at all. This is just really the only way that I can contribute to these cases that I know something about and kind of follow. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching, and if you're interested, I do plan on doing several more of these. I know I was thinking about doing Jodi Arias, Chris Watts, Scott Peterson, and I was thinking about doing a couple of YouTubers as well, like Colleen Ballinger's kind of on my list. But yeah, if there's anyone you would like me to do this for, let me know, and please comment, tell me what you didn't like, what you liked. The only thing that I ask is that when you're sharing your opinion on Gypsy Rose, that you do so in a respectful way. If you want to talk crazy, that's fine. Just don't do it here. I really don't want this to be a place where people are angrily expressing things in a negative way. If you don't like Gypsy, that's totally fine. Say why you don't. If you think that she should have gotten a higher sentence, obviously that's very valid, and you can say that, but just, I don't want you attacking people in the comments, even her. It's just not what I want. I don't want that to be on my channel. That's not what I want for my channel, and this is my channel, right? Just please be respectful, you guys. That's all I'm asking. I love different opinions. I love hearing people's different opinions, but I also like those opinions to be expressed in the proper way. All right, thank you for listening. I hope you watched to the end, and I will see you next time if you subscribe. If you don't, then, it was nice knowing you. Have a good night, day, morning, wherever, whatever. Bye.